trajectory of her future. It's also resulted in a necessary service for the Queensland beef industry based out of Emerald, looking after Central Queensland. Jane Armstrong, you've ducked out of the fabulous Graham Acton lunch today.
Yes, no, it was lovely, and looking forward to getting back, but it's great to be able to have a bit of time with you this morning.
Really good to see you again. We met recently at a beef industry conference. You were asked the question, what would you do if you won the lotto, and what did you say?
Yes, I said to my now business partner, I said I would love to have a full reproductive hub in Central Queensland, more directed towards the Western Queensland, just to be able to provide services for everyone out there that haven't been able to experience the technologies and the growth that those who are closer in more high density areas have been able to provide.
Because the reality is, if you're a Central Queensland producer, you're going to maybe Brizzy, Rocky for your services, for your reproductive services?
Yeah, exactly. So those who are further out towards Longreach and Augathella and Blackall and places like that, it's generally an hour plus just to get to one town, let alone driving 8 hours. And when we're dealing with such precious cargo like semen and embryos and things like that, there's only 3 planes from Blackall a week. So Emerald has 48 a week, which gives us a bit more accessibility. We have a 500k radius. So putting something in the centre there to provide a hub is limiting the travel exposure for those fragile byproducts.
Because the reality is that being an Emerald is not just about a convenience factor for being able to pop in or you pop out to someone's property. There's actually a scientific reason that having proximity is important.
Yes, so we have a very short period of time where we get to have these products where they are in a temperature controlled environment, and then they need to be processed as soon as possible and put into liquid nitrogen so that we can preserve these genetics for many, many years to come.
You're a morphologist. What does that mean?
I assess the structure of sperm, essentially. So it's like a building certificate for sperm, or your car safety certificate or something like that. It's the final piece in the puzzle. So we have a look at it, we make sure it's alive and swimming, and they do that all crush side, and that's great. But then we need to take it back to the lab, and we need to preserve it so it stays still, and we need to then assess individual sperm to make sure that they can actually do the job. It's one thing to be alive, but are they actually geared to do the right thing?
And of course, sperm is only one ingredient. Each member of your team has a different specialty that they look after.
Yes, I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team behind me, and they are all much more smarter and brilliant than me, which is great. So my business partner, Neil Farmer, who is a vet, he has a great interest in female reproduction. We have a Brazilian vet that has recently joined us, and he's also female reproduction and his love of ET and AI. We have now a second or third morphologist. So our senior morphologist, again, all she does is loves to sit there and count sperm and is brilliant at it also. We've trained our lab tech who loves processing. So her big thing is freezing and getting those results and making sure we lose a minimal amount during the freeze process. And our wonderful admin and dispatch who's keeps me organised and sorted, because my admin skills are not at all enviable.
Jane, I promised our audience that you're going to educate us on 3 things we mightn't have known about bull sperm. Hit us. Point number 1.
Okay, morphology is a non-negotiable. When getting your semen tested, it has to have morphology. You need the whole story. You can't just have half a story and go, okay, that's it, but you need to know what's going on. That morphology, second point, is that it tells us that story, what's happened to that bull in 8 weeks. So we know what his stresses are, we know what his tolerance of that stress is, and we start collecting that data, and we do it now with multiple clients where we've been collecting data for many years. And we can use that data to go back and start seeing size that we've been using in AI programs. We might have 200 of those straws in the tank, but he might be not throwing the best progeny because we've had him for many years before that we had access to this technology.
Point number 2?
Point number 2 is it's fragile and it's temperature. So when we're crush side and it's freezing cold, we need to make sure all our stuff's warm. So tech needs to be warm too, maybe, would be nice. Temperature and making sure that we get it to a facility as soon as possible.
And point number 3?
Point number 3. It's fascinating. There's so much we can learn from sperm just from that ejaculate. Like once we collect a bull, that how he adapts to all different types of stresses and how he processes nutritionally and things like that. So it is a very important thing. It's one very small factor or tool in the toolbox for a very large thing. I don't envy producers who have to think about absolutely everything at all. But for us, we love to be able to support those producers with the very small part of fertility that we have, have to be able to contribute and help them with, and create that sustainability in their cattle.
Jane Armstrong from Insight Repro, thanks for joining us here on Beef TV. And